Hi, hope you guys are doing well. It's time for part 2 of my full season review of House of the Dragon Season 1. In part 1, we of course focused on the good things, the things that I really enjoyed about House of the Dragon, and those, let me make it clear, those significantly overweighed a few things that I do have some issues with. I gave House of the Dragon an 8 out of 10 for the overall season. That's where we landed at when I combined all of the ratings for the individual episodes. But I think it could be better. I think it could be way better actually. One of the things that House of the Dragon definitely could improve is House Velaryon. Corlys Velaryon is one of my favorite characters in this time period, and it's such a pity that we barely got to know him. I feel like I keep repeating myself in the last couple of videos I put out, but I really am disappointed. I was so hyped to get to hear the tales this man could tell. He's been all around the world. He, of course, is famous for his 9 voyages. He's been to Ashai, to Yeti, to Karv. So the things that this man could tell alone are worth a show. Of course, they are working on a show. I don't know if it's ever gonna make it, but I wanted something here. I wanted to have a few glimpses, and I feel like it's so much wasted potential. If you have a guy like him who knows pretty much everything, he's been everywhere, and don't emphasize on it. I don't get it. Sure, what House of the Dragon did pretty well was establishing him as an ambitious man, a very proud man. I liked it. That is coolest. I have no problem with that. I think they've done a pretty good job when it comes to that. And I also like the dynamic between him and Rhaenys. Definitely a power couple. Eve Best and Steve Toussaint are great actors and definitely perfect for the roles. Still, I wanted something. I feel like I kind of set myself up for this disappointment because it's all I've been talking about in the build up to season 1. I was so hyped and I kept talking about his voyages and how he could have a scene where he like talks about it to another character, and then it kind of transfers into a voiceover, and we might actually get to see a young Corlys doing something during a voyage. But I don't know. I've been very excited for it, and maybe season 2 will do more with it. And I hope so. That is definitely something I feel like they could improve. Take the time and actually really introduce the man. Apart from being ambitious and proud, there is more to him. He's a legendary man in Westeros, an absolute legend, and he deserves better in my opinion. The same thing pretty much goes for his wife, another favorite of mine, Rhaenys Targaryen, the queen who never was, and that really was all she was in season 1, the queen who never was. We barely ever got something that really emphasized on her as a character rather than her talking about, or the characters talking to her, talking about her not being on the throne, her being cast aside. And it is a very important thing, don't get me wrong. It's very important to establish that. Who knows if we would be watching a show if this did not happen. After the second or third time, it would have been time to really focus on Rhaenys as a character. What is her motivation in this? What drives her? And we barely got to see that. And then, of course, I had huge problems with that whole dragon pit thing. I understand why they added it. It's for the masses. It's a big thing. But in my opinion, that is the worst scene of House of the Dragon. It's just so glorified. And that, in my opinion, just goes completely against the message this story should send. The Song of Ice and Fire, of course, has a very huge anti-war theme ingrained into its very core. There's no denying that. The Dance of the Dragons, of course, is a prime example of it. To then make this scene where she comes out of nowhere and civilians die, and instead of like emphasizing on that being a horrible thing, it's glorified with like badass music, and the camera focuses on Rhaenys' facial expressions and all. I get that this is supposed to be a badass moment, and I also hear some of you people out there who say that, well, she was escaping and stuff. Still, my point is only about the glorification. If you would have shown someone in the crowd, like a mother weeping over her dead son or something, or a brother weeping for a brother, it's key and so important that this show really shows the horrible acts and portrays them as horrible acts. And in this scene, they failed to do that. In turn, of course, Rhaenys is now a murderer of civilians and innocents. From here on out, they could set up a big moment that's gonna happen later on in the series, but still, my problem is the glorification in this very moment. Maybe that's just me, maybe I'm nitpicking here. I don't think I do, but I get that for a lot of people out there, This is just something they watch on a Sunday and they don't even second guess this stuff. But for me, it's very important, and that's why I had a huge problem with it. Another thing, of course, are the time jumps, and well, lots of people had huge problems with the time jumps, and I gotta say, I am not one of those people, but I understand them. It's of course confusing. Just look at the sheer size of the cast. Lots of people need multiple episodes just to remember all of the names of the characters, and then you constantly kill them off and do a time jump, and it's all different, and I get that. But this was always going to be a problem. Where do you start? How do you move forward? And for a television show, I am glad that we even got to see the Great Council Harrenhal, that we even got to see all of these characters. What I kept saying for quite some time now, and what George actually confirmed that this was an idea that they were actually discussing, was that they could have easily just started with Viserys dying and just show the war. Lots of spectacle, lots of war, battle, 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 dragon, dragon, dragon. That would have been successful, very successful. That is what the masses are here for. Or so we thought. Because if you look at it, lots of people really wanted more of Lena, more of Harwin Strong. They wanted to actually have those backstories. They wanted the slower pace. And I think that is a very valuable lesson for HBO. They can trust their audience. So yeah, time jumps definitely were a bit of a problem. Not for me particularly, but I get that the more broader, casual audience would have a problem with it. I see the other side as well though. I think Ryan Condal probably had to fight to even get to do all of this early stuff. This is only the very first season of the very first Game of Thrones successor show. They can trust their audience, and they should from now on. Something that I would also like more in season 2 is more focus on the secondary characters. More places would definitely wouldn't hurt. I know this time period and the most important events just didn't make it possible. I am very glad that we got to see Storm's End finally. That was inevitable, of course, but still. I think season 2 is definitely going to expand a lot on the Pact of Ice and Fire. We're going to visit Winterfell again. We're going to see the North again, and probably the Eyrie. That is something that's just going to add to that whole storytelling. And Ryan Condal actually came out and said that this is the case. They are definitely going to focus on more characters and the pace will be slower. The last thing I'm going to talk about is adding big twists, big action things, big spectacles, where there really is no need for them. If you look at my least favorite scenes of House of the Dragon Season 1, those were Daemon at the Stepstones, at least the very last few parts of that episode. I think that whole White Stag stuff is incredible. Then the wedding feast with Kristen Cole, killing Joffrey. Then, of course, as we talked about earlier, Rhaenys and the Dragon Pit. It's all the very last moments. And I think they, of course, added those things to make it more appealing to the masses. Action is why they're here. Dragons is why they're here. Violence is why they're here. It's what made Game of Thrones the worldwide success that it is. It can work if it's done right, and I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed these very moments that I just talked about. And that is fine. I'm not here to try and ruin the fun for you. That's not what I'm trying to do with my channel at all. And of course, this is a problem that will solve itself, in my opinion. Because if you look at season 2, if you look at what's gonna happen, just extremely action heavy. The whole dance is just starting and you only have to build around that. And that, I think, will definitely benefit House of the Dragon. So far, adaptation is not a problem of the show, in my opinion. It's just the invention of some things that are just a bit shaky, in my opinion. But of course, they also proved that they are very capable of coming up with original stuff as well. I mean, that whole throne room sequence, man. So if you look at my least favorite episodes of the season, I gave them both a 7 out of 10. So how bad is it really? I don't think it's that bad. My problems are rather small. Of course, with Corlys and Rhaenys being some of my favorite characters, I am a bit whiny, but it's not like it ruins House of the Dragon for me. And that is kind of my point. House of the Dragon is very good, but it could become a masterpiece. In my opinion, it's definitely the best throne since 2014. For me, that is without question. It's definitely better than season 5 to season 8, in my opinion. Miles ahead of them. And I would rank it right behind season 1 till season 4 of Game of Thrones. That is a very, very good thing. To sum it up, I want more attention to the secondary characters, and I want them to properly set up the huge events that are gonna happen in the next season without adding stuff. Because season 1 proved that people are definitely ready to spend more time with these characters instead of having those action scenes. I love House of the Dragon. I think it's a very good show. It could become way better. Way better. That is all I have for today. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely make sure to subscribe. Would very much appreciate that. And until then, take care and see you later.